Hey, podcaster. I'm Tim Walberg, your podcast performance coach, with another actionable tip so you can grow your authority and convert with ease. Today's tip is get clear on the reason you're podcasting for your business. There are a lot of good reasons to podcast for your business, but if you don't know which one is behind your podcast, it won't serve your listener, and that means it likely won't serve your business either. In other words, when you're not clear on the reason you're podcasting, you won't likely reap the podcasting benefits you were hoping for. In case you're new here, I'm Tim Walberg. I'm a radio veteran who's been coaching podcasters for over 7 years. I help people fix an underperforming podcast, and that might mean a reposition, a realignment, or a pivot of their existing show. I also help others start a podcast the right way from the beginning, and that means with intention and purpose, especially if you're podcasting for your business. And you press play on a good day, my friend, because I am going to share with you the top reasons to podcast for your business. And I explain how knowing your reason for podcasting should impact how you show up as a podcaster. Yes, it might mean changing a few things with your show for better supporting that main reason you're podcasting. And of course, when you do this, it serves your listener better, and that means you'll get the results you're looking for. Okay, so reason number one to podcast for your business is to grow your community. Podcasts are a great way to bring like-minded people together. If you're a business owner or entrepreneur using a podcast to build a community in your niche, this can serve you and your listener really, really well. You provide a space where they can connect with others and you, like a Facebook group or a community on another network like Mighty Networks, Substack, Slack, School, Discord, WhatsApp, or Kajabi. It could also be a community that you nurture through an email list. Entrepreneurs getting behind this reason for podcasting are likely doing it because they have multiple offers at different times, and it makes sense that they want continued and close contact with their audience. This might look like a course that opens and closes its doors, or someone who does a lot of affiliate marketing. The reason for the podcast also really works for entrepreneurs who need to build a lot of trust, as having continuous and consistent contact helps to build that relationship. Okay, so that was to grow your community. Reason number two, to generate leads. A podcast can serve as a fantastic top of funnel. It's awesome for discovery and SEO, and when done right, it can really help listeners get excited about dropping into the funnel. Depending on the kind of business you're in, it might look like the podcast driving listeners to your lead magnet, a discovery call, or simply sending listeners to a page that will allow you to retarget them with ads. This is an excellent reason to podcast for your business if you have a proven funnel and you want an alternative way to feed it. The obvious caveat here is that if this is your reason for podcasting, you better have a proven funnel. Okay, reason number three to podcast for your business is to build authority. Do you want to be known as the go-to expert in your field? Or maybe you want people to see that you're the real deal. Having a podcast adds a lot of credibility, and having a good podcast that showcases your expertise can be a game changer for establishing yourself in your niche. This reason for having a podcast really serves coaches, course creators, service providers, thought leaders, and innovators. It works really well for anyone with a higher price point product or service, but it also really is great for anyone trying to sell a book or build their speaking business. Reason number four to podcast for your business is to make sales. Yes, it is possible to sell directly from your podcast. I got to warn you though, it can be a very slippery slope. There is a fine line between showing up and serving your listener, which makes them feel good about you, and duping them into an infomercial. Proceed with caution on this one. This reason for podcasting serves entrepreneurs who sell a solution for an urgent issue. It can also work well for a lower price point product that doesn't require a lot of trust or loyalty. For some listeners, having a podcast that leads straight to their product or service works really well. And the number 5 reason to podcast for your business is as a new revenue stream. This reason for having a podcast is often not so much about using the podcast as a marketing tool for your business. It's more about having a podcast as a business. In other words, this shifts you from having a podcast for your business to having a podcast as a business. You are selling your audience instead of selling to your audience. And there's a big difference here. Still, some entrepreneurs can pull it off. What this usually looks like is growing your audience to a significant enough size that it becomes attractive to sponsors and or advertisers. I break this down in episode 173, How to Make Money with Your Podcast. And there's a link to that episode in the show notes. So, which one of these 5 is the best reason behind your podcast? No, you didn't hear me wrong. I said which one? I know what you're thinking. I'll take them all, please. Thank you very much. No, I'm asking you to step back here from the buffet because your plate is too small. And if you pile all that good stuff on it, you're going to end up with a big mess of yuck, gravy and all. So is it to grow your community? Is it to generate leads? Is it to build your authority? Is it to make sales? Or is it as a new revenue stream? When you are clear on your reason for podcasting, you can show up more consistently and effectively. Your reason for podcasting is going to help you determine your podcast style, frequency, format, and content. And when this is clear, crystal clear, your listeners will show up and subscribe for all the right reasons. And I hope that's just the tip you need. If you need clarity around the reason you're podcasting for your business, let's sort it out together. Get on my coaching calendar. It's free. Book your free 15-minute coaching call by using the link in the show notes or at podcastperformancecoach.com. I'm Tim Walberg. See ya.